Well, would you look what's back? I did the lifters on the right bank last weekend, and on the way home that day, it started misfiring on number 6 cylinder. Here's the plugs out of the right bank. This is number 6. You can see it's fuel fouled. Now I put a set of plugs in it, but I got a sneaky suspicion that that's not going to fix it, because before I put these plugs in, the new plugs just now, I switched the plug from number 6 to number 2, and the misfire stayed in number 6, but it was random. It would come and go, and occasionally it would set MIL flashing, and when I drove it in this morning, it was flashing and misfiring on number 6. So here's the misfire data: 35,640 misfires on cylinder number 6, and a few odd misfires on 3, 5, and 7, but the majority is on cylinder number 6. That was the one with the fouled plug. So I'm going to clear this by clearing the codes. Clear codes. And let's make sure they're gone. No codes. And let's look at data. Misfire data. And we'll fire it up and see how it runs. It's got a fresh set of plugs in it now. Pay particular attention to cylinder number 6. Well, it's still counting misfires on cylinder 6, so I suspect the injector is poorly spraying or improperly spraying. Let's look at fuel pressure. Fuel system data. Fuel pump command, fuel pump enable, fuel alcohol content, fuel pressure regulator control. Low pressure fuel is at desired fuel pressure is 700. Fuel pressure, fuel rail pressure is so let's shut it off and see what happens in fuel pressure. Well, it's not dropping. It should actually go up as the engine goes through a hot soak. The engine is not very hot right now, but it's warm. Well, I've swapped the coil, I've changed the plugs, I've swapped the wire. There's nothing else left but the injector or mechanical problem in the engine. There's no noises coming from the engine. Maybe I'll check vacuum just to be on the safe side. What's wrong with this picture? Number 6 exhaust is not moving. It's like the lifter has collapsed. I wonder if that valve lifter oil manifold solenoid is stuck supplying oil pressure, because I've electronically deleted the system, so it shouldn't work. So I took that rocker arm off and the push rod is not bent. If I start it and run it and push down on the push rod, I can feel the lifter moving up and down, but it's in the deactivate mode right now. And this is the connector for the 4 solenoids here. I'm hoping I can energize the solenoids to listen to them. I think the cylinder deactivation solenoid for the exhaust number 6 is stuck open, supplying oil pressure or not supplying oil pressure, whatever it has to do. I'm going to try and get a wiring diagram for this. So here's the used engine that I have apart for familiarization. So this is cylinder 1, 2, 1 and 2. Anyways, it's 1 and 7 and 4 and 6. So this is the passage here that I think is getting fed oil pressure when it shouldn't be. As I said, I've deactivated the cylinder delete active fuel management electronically. So, and it doesn't go into V4 mode at an idle anyways. So I think that solenoid, which would be this solenoid here, I think it's stuck in whatever position it would have to be in to deactivate that cylinder. So I'm just doing some research on exactly how this thing works. And the bottom line is there's one solenoid to control both lifters on each cylinder. So if the solenoid were to stick, it should theoretically cause both cylinders to deactivate or not activate. But we got number 6 exhaust, which is the same cylinder that failed previously with the lifter stuck. Now the lifter is not collapsed completely because it's not ticking like it did before. So when cylinder deactivation is commanded on, the locking pins are pushed inward with engine oil pressure directed from the valve lifter oil manifold assembly solenoids. So it energizes the solenoids to send oil pressure to the lifters to deactivate them, and it de-energizes the solenoids for them to lock again. So do we have just a faulty new lifter? It seems highly unusual that it would be the exact same cylinder that had the problem as before, but like I said, if it was the solenoid, it should theoretically affect both lifters, not just one. It doesn't mention any kind of check valves in there, but it does mention that it sequences them. I don't know how. Oh, it sequences them because the lifter has to be in the released position. It can't be pushing the valve open. Well, I'm still going to try and activate the solenoids mechanically or electrically with a jumper wire. So the control pin is pin number 2, which is the gray wire. So I'm back pinning that pin, and I've got the key on. So if I ground this wire, you can hear the valve lifter oil manifold solenoid activates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it up and run it and ground that and see if it deactivates the intake valve in number 6. So as you can see, number 6 exhaust is not moving, but number 6 intake is. So you can see the number 6 intake valve deactivates when I energize the solenoid. So that lifter is just stuck. A defective new lifter. I'm grounding pin number 2 at the AFM connector. You can see the intake valve here stops working. Oh boy. Oh well, call the dealership, I guess. Now I shut it off, and a second after I shut it off, I heard a definitive snap. So I'm going to start it up again and see if that lifter is working again.
And as you can see, it is working again. Let's try deactivating it. Well, it's likely going to stick again, but why would it stick if the system has been disabled? Go figure. So there it is, back together and running again with no misfires. Now, why does that lifter collapse? I've got the AFM system unplugged electrically, so there'll be some fault codes related to that, those solenoids, I'm sure. Let's see what we got. Should have coil codes and mass airflow codes, ignition coil 2, 4, 6, and 8. Let's delete the codes. That's funny. Got the solenoids unplugged. I guess because I've electronically turned off the feature, it's not looking for those solenoids now. Unless it doesn't look for them until it tries to command them on, and doesn't command it into 4-cylinder mode in at an idle. I'm going to take this thing for a road test. I strongly believe there's a faulty lifter in there, number 6 exhaust. Zero misfires. Well, we didn't make it out of the driveway, and it's misfiring on number 6 again. You can feel it shaking. So I gotta have a heart-to-heart discussion with the service manager at the GM dealer where I bought the parts, because theoretically that should be a part warranty. We'll see how that's going to play out now.